Music change.
Philadelphia.
Phones are up.
Please welcome the National
We're locked and
President
loaded.
Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
America isn't ready for a cornball dad with cats. A Midwestern corn. Want to remind everybody how wrong liberals were.
Good evening, I stand before you today to proudly announce I am now officially the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. And so now we got some work to do. We need to move to the general election and win that. And to all the friends, listen, we also need to level set. We are the underdogs in this race. But we have the momentum, and I know exactly what we are up against. Now, many of you know, before I was elected vice president or elected a United States senator, I was an elected attorney general, and before that, elected district attorney. And before that, I was a courtroom prosecutor. So in those roles, I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women. Fraudsters who scammed consumers. Cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. So, but let me say, hold on. This campaign, our campaign, is not just a fight against Donald Trump. Our campaign, this campaign, is a fight for the future. It's a fight for the future.
Lock him up.
In Pennsylvania, we fight for a future with affordable housing, affordable health care, affordable child care, paid leave. We fight for a future where we build a broad-based economy, where every American has the opportunity to own a home, to start a business, and to build wealth. We fight for a future where we bring down prices that are still too high and lower the cost of living for America's families, so that they have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. We fight for a future where we defend our most fundamental freedoms: the freedom to vote, the freedom to be safe from gun violence, the freedom to love who you love openly and with pride, and the freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own you too. So here's the thing. Since the day that I announced my candidacy, I set out to find a partner who can help build this brighter future. A leader who will help unite our nation and move us forward. A fighter for the middle class. A patriot who believes, as I do, in the extraordinary promise of America. A promise of freedom, opportunity, and justice, not just for some, but for all.
Big balls, Walz, baby.
So, Pennsylvania, I'm here today because I found such a leader. Governor Tim Walz of the great state of Minnesota.
I don't think this dude had any ambition like this, by the way. That's another thing that is, like, in my opinion, overlooked. He was just good. He was good and he did the right things, and that's why he's here.
To those who know him best, Tim is more than a governor. To his wife, Gwen, he is a husband. To his kids, Hope and Gus, he is a dad. To his fellow veterans, he is Sergeant Major Walz. To the people of southern Minnesota, for 12 years, he was congressman. To his former high school students, he was Mr. Walz.
This speech is a bit lame, I'm not gonna lie, but it's all good.
And to his former high school football players, he was coach. And in 91 days,
not that it matters.
The nation will know Coach Walz by another name, Vice President of the United States. So America, for some folks, they're just getting to know Coach Walz's story. And I'll tell you, he is the proud product of a middle-class family in rural Nebraska. He is a veteran who served our nation in uniform for more than 2 decades
24
as a
years
member
of
of the Army National Guard, and he went to college on the GI Bill. He is someone who, long before he entered politics, worked as a teacher. When Coach Walz and his wife Gwen moved from his native Nebraska to Minnesota nearly 30 years ago, they both took jobs at the local high school. Coach Walz taught social studies, Gwen taught English. After school, Tim was the linebacker.
Normal ass people, bro. Normal ass people. Undefeated.
Where I've heard the stories about he had a knack for using the game of football to teach life lessons. He saw the potential in kids who sometimes didn't even see it in themselves. Under those Friday night lights, Coach Walz motivated his players to believe they could achieve anything. And together, they defied the odds, hear this out, going from a winless record to the school's first ever state championship.
Oh my God, it's so Jover. It's so good.
And I'll say and I'll add, Tim wasn't only a role model on the football field. Around that same time, Coach Walz was approached by a student in his social studies class. The young man was one of the first openly gay students at the school and was hoping to start a gay-straight alliance. At a time when acceptance was difficult to find for LGBTQ students, Tim knew the signal that it would send to have a football coach get involved.
Oh my God, I'm nutting. Oh, that's so good. That actually.
Right? So he signed up to be the group's faculty advisor. And as students have said, he made the school a safe place for everybody.
What a gift. What a gift.
In the high school yearbook, the students voted Coach Walz the, quote, most inspiring faculty member. And as I think everyone here can see, Tim Walz was the kind of teacher and mentor that every child in America dreams of having.
If he cries, I will cry. If he cries real tears, I might actually cry too. He cried,
The kind
we
of
crowed.
coach, because he's the kind of person who makes people feel like they belong and then inspires them to dream big. And that's the kind of vice president he will be. And that's the kind of vice president America deserves. So it was Coach Walz's students who actually helped him decide to run for office. And he served 12 years in Congress.
He delivered a state championship? Are you fucking joking? Like, did they build him in a lab, dude? How did this guy...
He was the highest ranking enlisted man to ever serve in the United States Congress.
Yeah, I take back everything I said about her speech. She's killing it right now. Immaculate.
And the top Democrat on the Veterans Committee. And he was known as one of Capitol Hill's best marksmen, winning a bipartisan sharpshooting contest year after year.
I think our brains are so warped by how unimaginably abnormal politicians are on both sides of the party that, like, when you have a normal dude like this, all of a sudden it just comes across as, like, insane.
To protect the freedom of workers to join a union. And he cast one of the critical votes to pass the Affordable Care Act. Which, of course, gave health insurance to tens of millions of Americans. I'm going to tell you, when we win, Tim and I will continue to make the Affordable Care Act even stronger.
What does that mean? I mean, come on.
He will win.
Kamala's rise to the top of the Democratic ticket has placed a heightened emphasis on the party's choice for vice president, underscoring the significance of the second in command role. While the impact of a running mate is typically limited unless exceptionally popular or unpopular, growing concerns about the US economy are expected to have more significant implications. Nonetheless, Kamala's selection of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on Tuesday has generated notable enthusiasm, contributing to a sense of renewed vigor in the campaign. Democrats remain cautious about polling gains but are increasingly optimistic about their chances against Donald Trump. Harris highlighted Governor Walz's commitment to advancing the interests of middle class families. Originally from rural Nebraska, Walz is a former teacher and high school football coach with 24 years of service in the Army National Guard.
Now, let's talk about what we're dealing with on the other side. So on that last topic, if Donald Trump gets the chance, he will end the Affordable Care Act and take us back to a time when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. You remember what that was like?
No.
Children with asthma, breast
They're
cancer
too young.
survivors, grandparents with diabetes. Well, Governor Walz and I will not let that happen.
Go harder. Expand.
Because we believe
you're gonna
health care
lower
should
the-
be a
lower the
right and not
Medicare
just a
eligibility
privilege
age.
for those who can afford it.
Talk about more price caps on
As
pharmaceuticals.
governor, Tim has continued to fight for working families. He secured paid leave for workers in Minnesota. And he refused as governor to allow any student in their public schools to go
hungry.
So he made school breakfast and lunch free for every child. And Tim Walz and I, we agree about many things, including when our middle class is strong, America is strong. And strengthening the middle class will be my defining goal as I am President of the United States. So Pennsylvania, ours is a fight for the future of the middle class, and it is a fight for freedom.
Plato, thank you for the 50 big ones. God damn.
In this moment, we are witnessing a full-on attack against hard-fought, hard-won freedoms and rights. Take reproductive freedom. Now think about this. Donald Trump said
Why do you think she
wants
never
to
mentions the
punish
lower class?
women.
Because every American thinks they're middle class, regardless of what their class is.
And as a result of his actions, today in America, 1 out of
That's it.
3 women live in a state with a Trump abortion ban. 1 out of 3. Some of these bans go back to the 1800s, even before women had a right to vote. Think about that. Well, Tim and I have a message for Trump and others who want to turn back the clock on our fundamental freedoms. We're not going back. We're not going back. Going back. And so let me say about Tim Walz, he has shown up to stand against these attacks, long before he stood on the stage with me. After Roe was overturned, he was the first governor in the country to sign a new law that enshrined reproductive freedom as a fundamental right. And with Tim Walz by my side when I am President of the United States and we win majorities in the United States Congress, we will pass a bill to restore reproductive freedom, and I will proudly sign it into law.
That's new, but I like it. The win majorities in the Congress. That's actually interesting that she said that.
Tim Walz has also defended the sacred freedom to vote. As governor, he signed the most significant expansion of voting rights in Minnesota in over 50 years. And with Governor Walz's help, when I am president, we are going to finally pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. We're going to get it done. So Tim is a hunter and a gun owner who believes, as the majority of gun owners do, that we need reasonable gun safety laws in America.
That's another lock because they kept saying like Kamala wants to take your guns away.
He expanded background checks and increased penalties for illegal firearm sales. And together, when we win in November, we are finally going to pass universal background checks, red flag laws, and an assault weapons ban. Through his work, Tim, the way I think about it, he really does shine a light on a brighter future that we can build together. In his state, he has been a model chief executive, and with his experience, I'm telling you, Tim Walz will be ready on day one. In fact, when you compare his resume shall we, to Trump's running mate, well, some might say it's like a matchup between the varsity team and the JV squad. So, Pennsylvania, ultimately in this election, we each face a question.
Leave it up to Walz. Don't do sports references, please.
Do we want to live in? A country of freedom, compassion, and rule of law, or a country of chaos, fear, and hate? And here's the beauty of our democracy. We each have the power to answer that question. We each have the power to answer that question. The power is with the people. We love our country, and I believe it is the highest form of patriotism to fight for the ideals of our country. That is how we preserve the promise of America. And after all, you know, the promise of America is what makes it possible for two middle-class kids, one a daughter of Oakland, California, who was raised by a working mother, the other a son of the Nebraska plains who grew up working on a farm. It's the promise of America, because only in America is it possible for them together to make it all the way to the White House.
That beautiful dynamic, beautiful juxtaposition. You got lockdown, urban vote, upper middle class professional, and you got like a straight farmhand coming from the Democratic Farmer and Labor Party of Minnesota. Like it's a great perfect representation of all the constituencies that you would want to fucking win over.
That's right. And so Coach Walz and I may hail from different corners of our great country, but our values are the same. And we both believe in lifting people up, not knocking them down. He and I, we both know the vast majority of people in our country have so much more in common than what separates them. When we look at folks, we see in our fellow Americans neighbors, not enemies.
She didn't mention her dad because her dad was not in her life when she was growing up.
And so my promise to you is this. Our campaign will reach out to everyone, from red states to blue states, from the heartland to the coast.
He also disowned her.
In rural, urban, suburban, and tribal communities. We are running a campaign on behalf of all Americans. And when elected, we will govern on behalf of all Americans. And so, with Tim Walz by my side, and with all of you at our side, let us fight for the promise of our future. And with that, I ask Pennsylvania, are you ready to make your voices heard? Do we believe in freedom? Do we believe in opportunity? Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win. And now, welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. He's gonna cry, bro. Please don't cry.
Wow. Thank you, Philadelphia. Thank you, Madam Vice President, for the trust you put in me, but maybe more so, thank you for bringing back the joy.
During his tenure, Walz, in collaboration with Minnesota's Democratic legislature, has championed progressive politics including free school meals, protections for abortion rights, pro-worker initiatives, and stricter gun regulations. His environmental record also outshines that of his competitors in addressing the climate crisis. Governor Walz has skillfully appealed to moderate Republicans while also critiquing Donald Trump. Harris even adopted his description of the former president as weird. Critics from the right argue that Walz should have called in the National Guard more swiftly when protests following George Floyd's murder in Minneapolis turned violent. However, the Trump campaign may struggle to label a folksy white Midwestern man who enjoys hunting as a dangerously liberal extremist, a tag more easily applied to a black woman from California. Importantly, Walz brings substantial political experience and connections, having been first elected to Congress in 2006 with his colleagues there rallying behind him.
I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you and Doug, this incredible journey. And Pennsylvania, I know you know this, but my God, what a treasure you have in Josh Shapiro. Holy hell, can this guy bring the fire? He can bring the fire. This is a visionary leader. Also, I have to tell you, everybody in America knows when you need a bridge fixed, call that guy. And I think sometimes we forget, and you see people a little one-dimensional, but seeing a guy who cares so deeply about his family, a man with compassion, vision, and I'll have to tell you this, I know this from experience, there is no one you would rather go to a Springsteen concert in Jersey with than him, than that guy. Bruce! And I can't wait for all of you and America to get to know my incredible wife, Gwen, a 29-year public school educator.
My fucking goat!
Don't ever underestimate teachers. And our two beautiful kids, Hope and Gus. I couldn't be prouder to be on this ticket and to help Vice President Harris become what we all know is very, very good for us to think about. Next President of the United States of America.
Motherfucker, name one of his children Gus, bro. Is such a lock.
As a district attorney,
You can't be whiter than
Attorney
that.
General of the great state of California, a United States Senator, and Vice President of the United States.
You love that he claps for his own speech? It's actually a socialist leader trait. I'm not even joking.
Vice President Harris has fought on the side of the American people.
It says that it shows in
on
like
the predators.
crowd
She took on
psychology.
the
It shows that you're a part
She
of
took
like the
down
group
the
that you're speaking
transnational
to. You're
gangs.
speaking with,
She
not
stood up
to.
against powerful corporate interests, and she never hesitated.
Slavoj Žižek has talked extensively about how Stalin used to do this.
People's lives. And I want all of you to hold this, and don't ever underestimate the power of this. She does it all with a sense of joy. I know a little something about that commitment to people. I was born in West Point, Nebraska. I lived in Butte, a small town of 400, where community was a way of life. Growing up, I spent the summers working on the family farm. My mom and dad taught us, show generosity towards your neighbors and work for a common good. My dad served in the Army during the Korean War, and with his encouragement, at 17, I joined the Army National Guard. For 24 years, I proudly wore the uniform of this nation. The National Guard gave me purpose. It gave me the strength of a shared commitment to something greater than ourselves. And just as it did for my dad and millions of others, the GI Bill gave me a shot at a college education.
Dude, that's so sick. Openly writing like what is like the closest that you can get to unconditional social safety net
and I
is
followed in their
fire.
footsteps. 3 out of 4 of us married teachers. It's what we do. For nearly 20 years, I had the privilege of teaching high school social studies and coaching football. Including winning that state championship. So thank you. Don't ever close the yearbook. Don't ever. But it was my students. They encouraged me to run for office. They saw in me what I was hoping to instill in them.
I believe this. I don't think he had any fucking
a belief that one person can make a difference.
I don't think he thought he was like running
for
president.
So in 2006, I took a leap and I ran for Congress.
He's literally the opposite of fucking Shapiro in that regard.
And because high school teachers are super optimistic, I was running in a district that had 1 Democrat since 1892. Well, my neighbors graced me with an opportunity to represent them in the United States House of Representatives. I'm proud of the work we did there together. I worked across the aisle on veterans issues, on agriculture, and on ways to grow rural economies. I learned the art of compromise without compromising my values. And now, as governor of the great state of Minnesota, I bring those experiences to bear in tackling the challenges that are facing our great state. Minnesota's strength comes from our values, our commitment to working together, to seeing past our differences, to always being willing to lend a helping hand. Those are the same values I learned on the family farm and tried to instill in my students. I took it to Congress and to the state capitol, and now Vice President Harris and I are running to take those very values to the White House.
Yeah, he's the complete opposite of Biden, who's a corrupt career politician. He's a normal guy who rose to the merit from the bottom.
Donald Trump sees the world a little differently than us.
I think repackaging socialism or socialist policies or social safety nets as neighborliness is so fire. I'm nutting, dude.
He doesn't have time for it because he's too busy serving himself. Again and again and again, Trump weakens our economy to strengthen his own hand. He mocks our laws. He sows chaos and division. And that's to say nothing of his record as president. He froze in the face of the COVID crisis. He drove our economy into the ground. And make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed.
Oh! Fucking got him! Oh, that's a banger! Okay, come on. Come on, hold on now. Hold the phone, hold the door, hold the phone.
You know, some of us are... Some of us in here are old enough to remember. I see you down there. I see those old white guys. Some of us are old enough to remember when it was Republicans who were talking about freedom. It turns out now what they meant was the government should be free to invade your doctor's office.
Yes. Yes.
In Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and their personal choices that they make.
Patient doctor, no third party.
Even if we wouldn't make the same choice for ourselves, there's a golden rule. Mind your own damn business.
I'm nutting. I'm nutting again. I'm nutting again. He's making me nut. Never has a 60-year-old bald man made me nut like this.
These guys are after my heart chanting, mind your own damn business. That feels good, so thank you. Look, that includes IVF. And this gets personal for me and my family.
Oh, God. Oh, who's doing it?
When my wife and I decided to have children, we spent years going through infertility treatments. And I remember praying every night for a call for good news. The pit in my stomach when the phone rang, and the agony when we heard that the treatments hadn't worked.
Oh, my God, I can't wait for the Groypers to be like, his seed was weak.
That when we welcomed our daughter into the world,
they're going to be even grosser and weirder, and then Americans are going to be even more negatively polarized. What is happening right now? We got a hype train going.
When Vice President and I talk about freedom, we mean the freedom to make your own health care decisions. And for our children to be free to go to school without worrying they'll be shot dead in their classrooms. By the way, as you heard, I was one of the best shots in Congress, but in Minnesota, we believe in the Second Amendment, but we also believe in common sense gun violence laws.
Oh, my God.
Vice President Harris' idea of freedom is a ticket for education to be that ticket to the middle class, not crippling debt. Air that's clean, water that's pure, communities that are safe. A place where we settle our political differences not through violence, but with our votes. And that's what this election's about. What direction will this country go in? He's not going back. Well, Donald Trump would damn sure take us backwards. Let's be clear about that. And don't believe him when he plays dumb. He knows exactly what Project 2025 will do to restrict our freedoms. To rig the economy to help the super rich. If Trump gets a chance to return, he's going to pick up exactly where he left off 4 years ago. Only this time, it will be much, much worse. Raising costs on middle-class family. He will repeal the Affordable Care Act, no doubt about it. He'll gut Social Security and Medicare. And when somebody tells you they believe him. He said he'd ban abortion across this country, and he'll do it, whether or not Congress is there or not. Donald Trump's not fighting for you or your family. He never sat at that kitchen table like the one I grew up at, wondering how we were going to pay the bills. He sat at his country club up in Mar-a-Lago, wondering how he can cut taxes for his rich friends. And I got to tell you, his running mate shares his dangerous and backward agenda for this country. J.D. Vance literally wrote the foreword for the architect of the Project 2025 agenda. Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, J.D. studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on! That's not what middle America is. And I got to tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, you see what I did there?
What's exciting about Walz is both his policy record and how he communicates it. Following his 2022 elections, Minnesota Democrats gained full control of the state government, though by slim margins, a one-seat majority in the state Senate and a narrow lead in the House. Despite these thin margins, they were highly productive. The legislature passed and Walz signed a series of significant progressive bills, including measures for free breakfast and lunch for all students, driver's license for undocumented immigrants, a paid family leave program, and state funding to assist lower income individuals in purchasing homes. While Governor Walz deserves much credit, the state legislature also played a crucial role. In contrast, many Democratic governors in blue states, such as New York's Katie, often seem to take pride in curbing the initiatives of liberal state legislators.
I got to tell you, pointing out just an observation of mine that I made. I just have to say it. You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see. So you know what's out there, so say it with me. We aren't going back. We aren't going back. We are not going back.
He made a couch comment. I missed it. I was tweeting.
So we got 91 days. My God, that's easy. We'll sleep when we're dead.
He's the method, bro. He's the method.
Over those next 91 days and every day in the White House, I'll have Vice President Harris's back. Every single day. And we'll have yours. You know how this works. We can't do it alone. We need you, each and every one of you. Go over to KamalaHarris.com, get on board, because we need you. Freedom to make our own choices. This leader, this compassionate, careful, joyous leader, believes in each and every one of you. My God, you came here tonight to sit at the very top because you love this country and you're not going back. She believes in the opportunity for every single person to join the middle class. She believes in the promise of America. We just got to fight. We just got to fight. Because as soon-to-be President Harris says, when we fight, we win! Thank you, Philadelphia. Thank you, Vice President. God bless America.
I'm just gonna say one thing. Holy fuck, dude. I'm not used to the Democratic Party being competent and making right decisions, but that's what it feels like when they actually do. I mean, this is like every single thing that I said would be the best possible scenario, and they followed through on it. Yes, I will go back to the couch clip in a second. Now, one thing I have to mention here is the reason why I say Kamala Harris is like, she's all right in terms of like being an orator is because think about the difference between her and the speech that she delivered versus the way that Tim Walz was delivering his speech. Like, the reality of the matter is he's just He's pretty fucking solid. He is naturally charismatic in a kind of goofy, endearing way. I think that he plays really well to the base. It's a great contrast. Kamala Harris is incredibly educated, obviously, like, represents one pathway in the American dream, coming from a family, being raised by a single mother, immigrant parents, and just like, and you know, becoming the vice president now, running for president. Like, that shit is really, really captivating in terms of representation. It's really captivating for a lot of people of color across the board. That is a story that a lot of people share in this country, right? On the other hand, you got Tim Walz, also coming from a working class background, literal fucking farmhand shit, from Arkansas or Nebraska, okay? Becoming a teacher, serving the military. Like, it's just, he is so authentic. He comes across very authentic, very endearing. I think that, I mean, this is a really, really fucking solid, this is a really solid ticket. Walz's home county in Nebraska is larger than Connecticut, but with only 5,500 people. Phenomenal. I think phenomenal overall. He didn't even stop the thing. He just talks and talks. Let's see what MSNBC has to say, and then we'll tune into the Copium Factory.
A running mate, vast majority of Americans saying they don't have an opinion of him because they do not know him. She taking the time today in her remarks to introduce him in detail, and then her newly announced running mate.
I will say this much, though, and this part remains true. Like, I don't think Walz ever was like, oh, yeah, I have ambitions. Like, I have higher office ambitions. As a matter of fact, someone was bringing up his one-time quote about how he'd rather eat glass than go back to DC. And I think that he was basically called into action through his legislative accomplishments. Like, Josh Shapiro, on the other hand, very ambitious. Pete Buttigieg, very ambitious. Barack Obama was also very ambitious. Barack Obama, on the other hand, was very charismatic as well and could communicate in a way that at least seemed authentic. I think Tim Walz gives off a totally different vibe, and he was basically built in a lab to dominate American politics. He's got the best biography and the best and got policy chops. A great choice. That's why I was behind him earlier when people were talking about others. They don't have that role player come off the bench mentality, but Barack didn't debate on Fox News. Yeah, I suspect you're joking and making a joke about Pete Buttigieg. Like, it's kind of crazy that people were even thinking about Pete Buttigieg, a dude who was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, when you got a fucking dude who was a governor, who was a congressperson, like committee chairs and shit. It's pretty crazy. Anyway, overall, Republicans are gonna be ruthless. They're gonna be weird. They're gonna talk about how, like, I've seen liberals on Twitter saying they like Walz, but they're concerned by the fact that you also like him. If someone is like negatively polarized towards liking a candidate because I like them, they have the brain capacity of a hamster. Okay? Like, that's it. That's the dumbest thing on the fucking planet. If someone is genuinely making political calculations about like what someone they have been negatively primed into hating thinks, it's just like, you should just go outside. You should never touch a computer. Okay? You should just not touch a computer. Also, my political instincts in terms of like putting together a winning fucking composition was so on the goddamn money. Those are the same exact fucking dumbass liberals who were like riding with Biden until the very last moment. Okay? So, you know, in terms of like putting together a successful electoral strategy, I think I'm pretty aware of what the American population is interested in. The crusties are already chirping about him meeting with Netanyahu. It's fine. Those people don't vote anyway. It doesn't matter. That's how great Walz is. They have the link to haters for an attack. Yeah, he plugged up a lot of holes that Kamala had that Republicans were going to attack. Well, the other side of this story that like a lot of people, I was actually very worried with a Shapiro pick. I was worried that Kamala Harris would probably tack to the center. It is a age-old Democratic Party instinct to tack to the center when you get attacked by the right. When they call you a radical, instead of doubling down on your proposals and being like, what do you think? You think feeding children is radical? Well, fucking, you're the radical. You're the weirdo. You know what I mean? Instead of doing that, Democrats oftentimes turn around and they hit center. They go, no, I'm not a radical. Oh my God, God forbid, don't call me a socialist. Oh my God, I'm so scared. You don't have to be a socialist, okay? As long as you're improving the material conditions of the working class in this country, you don't have to call yourself a socialist. You don't have to say you're a socialist, okay? That's what matters. Stick to the fucking policies, not these like dumbass labels.
As Democrats adjusted to the upheaval following Joe Biden's decision to end his re-election campaign and passed the baton to his Vice President Kamala Harris, a party veteran proposed a strategy: start calling Donald Trump weird. The originator of this tactic, which Harris's campaign also adopted, was Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. In an interview with CNN, Walz classified it's not name calling or labeling him, it's an observation. He added that he had not coined the term himself, but had heard it used by relatives and Republicans to describe the former president. Walz is now expected to spend the next 3 months highlighting the weirdness of Trump and his running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, after Harris announced him as a vice presidential pick on Tuesday. Although relatively unknown nationally and not from a pivotal swing state, Walz is anticipated to help Harris advocate for her policies and persuade voters to reject Trump's extreme vision for the US government. Currently in his second term as governor, the former congressman and high school teacher brings to the ticket a strong record of progressive policymaking, a somewhat sympathetic stance towards pro-Palestine protesters, and a distinctly Minnesotan communication style. This approach could be instrumental in the campaign's effort to win over voters in nearby swing states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. If you found this video informative, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. And thanks for watching.